the pain of loss, and the shock of God's silence. You didn't lose it because you didn't pray enough. You didn't lose it because God stopped caring. And you didn't lose it by accident. You begged, you fasted, you believed, and still, it slipped through your hands. If you ever prayed, God, please don't let this go, and it still went, this message is not here to shame you. It's here to explain what most people never hear. Stay with me. Loss hurts more when you prayed about it, because now the pain feels personal. You don't just grieve what you lost. You grieve the silence of God afterward. You replay the moment it broke. The relationship ended, the door closed, the job disappeared, the opportunity vanished. And the question keeps haunting you. God, if you knew how much this mattered to me, why didn't you stop it? That question is not rebellion. It's honesty. And God is not offended by honest pain. The hard truth. Here is the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Sometimes God lets go of what you prayed for, because it was quietly shaping your future in the wrong direction. Not everything you love is safe to keep forever. Not everything you pray for is aligned with what God sees ahead. Some losses are not punishment. They are protection disguised as grief. And protection rarely feels kind when it first arrives. Reframe the loss. You see the loss in the present. God sees the consequence in the future. What you cried over today might have cost you far more tomorrow. Some things don't break because they are weak. They break because they have completed their assignment in your life. And when the assignment ends, God does not explain. He removes. If you're still hurting, it's because the wound is fresh. But pain does not mean God failed you. In the next part, I will tell you what God was actually preserving when He allowed you to lose what you prayed to keep. Don't leave. This part changes everything. What God was protecting and how to heal without bitterness. What if God didn't take something from you, but removed something before it took you? Let's talk about what was really happening. Some doors close because staying would have shrunk you. Some people leave because staying would have broken you. Some opportunities vanish because they would have delayed your purpose. God does not just answer prayers. He answers destinies. And sometimes the prayer you prayed conflicted with the future He prepared. So, He chose the future, the dangerous response. Here is where many people get stuck. They let loss turn into bitterness. They let grief harden into mistrust. They stop praying not because they don't believe, but because they're afraid to hope again. That is the real danger. Loss is painful, but closed hearts delay healing. God never intended the loss to make you smaller, only wiser. The turning point. Healing begins when you stop asking, why did God allow this? And start asking, what is God preparing me for? Some losses clear space. Some endings make room. Some removals reposition you. What feels like rejection now may be redirection. You'll thank God for later. If this message spoke to you, don't walk through this season alone. Every day, Daily Prayer Bomb releases powerful prayers to help you heal, refocus, and rebuild your faith without pretending you're not hurting. Subscribe to Daily Prayer Bomb and let prayer meet you right where life wounded you. You didn't lose everything. God is not finished. Stay connected. Your restoration begins here. What God was protecting, what you must release, and how to move forward without breaking. What if God didn't remove something from you, but removed it before it removed you? What if the loss wasn't cruelty, but timing? Stay with me. What God was really doing. Some doors close not because you were unworthy, but because staying would have slowly reduced who you were becoming. Some people leave because their role in your life has expired. Even if your emotions were still attached, God does not just guard what you love. He guards what you are becoming. And sometimes what you prayed to keep was quietly interfering with that future. So God intervened, not loudly, but firmly, the invisible protection. You see the loss, God saw the cost, you saw comfort. God saw compromise, you saw stability. God saw stagnation. Not everything that feels safe is good for long-term growth. Not everything familiar is meant to be permanent. Some removals are not punishment. They are prevention, the dangerous crossroad. Here is the moment that decides everything. You can let the loss make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. Bitterness says, God failed me. Faith says, God spared me. One path closes your spirit. The other keeps it alive. God does not waste pain, but he will not force meaning on a closed heart. The shift you must make. Stop asking, why did God take this? Start asking, what is God clearing space for? Some endings are not setbacks. They are repositioning points. What feels like loss today may be the reason clarity arrives tomorrow. If this message met you in a sensitive place, you don't have to walk through this season alone. Every day, Daily Prayer Bomb releases focused prayers for healing, restoration, clarity, and renewed strength. Subscribe to Daily Prayer Bomb and let prayer rebuild what loss tried to destroy. God is not done with you. This was not the end. There is a moment after loss when the pain is no longer sharp, but the questions remain. That is where many people lose faith quietly. This part is for that moment when God doesn't explain. God rarely explains loss in real time. He does not always tell you why it ended. He does not always show you what he saved you from. Instead, he asks for something harder. Trust without full information. Faith is not built when answers are clear. It is formed when obedience continues, even when clarity has not arrived. And that kind of faith is never shallow. Acceptance is not agreement. Acceptance does not mean you approve of the loss. It means you stop fighting reality. You can grieve and still trust God. You can miss what was and still move forward. Some people stay stuck because they keep trying to resurrect what God already released. Letting go is not a weakness. It is alignment, the quiet restoration. Here is what few people tell you. Restoration rarely arrives loudly. It begins as peace, as clarity, as strength returning quietly. Before God replaces what was lost, he rebuilds you, because if he gave you new things with the old wounds still open, you would bleed on what was meant to bless you. So he heals first, the promise you can stand on. God does not take without purpose. He does not remove without intention. What left your life did not leave God's plan. The chapter closed, but the story did not end. And what is ahead will make sense of what is behind. If you are in a season of letting go, you do not have to process it alone. Every day, Daily Prayer Bomb releases grounded, powerful prayers to help you heal, trust again, and move forward with clarity. Subscribe to Daily Prayer Bomb and allow prayer to steady you until strength fully returns. This loss did not defeat you, it prepared you. There is something nobody warns you about after loss. When the tears dry, when the shock fades, when the prayers stop sounding desperate, you are left with a responsibility, not to explain the loss, but to decide who you become after it. Loss reveals, it does not create. Loss does not change you, it reveals you. It reveals what you depended on too heavily. It reveals where your identity was anchored. It reveals whether your faith was conditional. Many people don't struggle because they lost something. They struggle because the loss exposed how much of themselves was tied to it. God allows loss not to humiliate you, but to mature you. Immature faith needs constant reassurance. Mature faith stands even when reassurance is absent. Why God did not rescue it. Here is a hard truth, spoken plainly. If God had rescued what you prayed to keep, you would have stayed the same. Some prayers, if answered, would have preserved comfort but postponed growth. God is not interested in protecting versions of you that cannot survive the future He is leading you into. So He let it fall, not because He was distant, but because He was serious. The dangerous delay. Many people lose time after loss, not because they are weak, but because they keep replaying what cannot be undone. They keep revisiting conversations, reimagining outcomes, rehearsing alternate endings. But life only moves forward, and faith that refuses to move slowly turns into frustration. God does not require you to forget, but He does require you to continue, rebuilding without romanticizing. Rebuilding after loss is not inspirational. It is quiet, it is disciplined, it is slow. You rebuild habits, you rebuild trust, you rebuild prayer without emotional fireworks. This is where real faith is formed, not when God feels close, but when obedience continues without emotion. That is not weakness, that is strength. What this season is really about. This season is not about replacing what you lost. It is about becoming someone who no longer needs it to survive. Once that work is done, God is free to add again wisely. If you are rebuilding quietly, if you are learning to trust again without noise, you are not behind. Every day, Daily Prayer Bomb releases grounded prayers for people walking through real seasons, not spiritual fantasies. Subscribe to Daily Prayer Bomb and let prayer strengthen you while God prepares what comes next. You didn't lose your future, you were refined for it. At some point, every honest believer reaches this moment. Not the moment of loss, not the moment of shock, but the moment afterward when life continues, and you must decide how you will live now. This is not the part where God explains everything. This is the part where you choose what kind of faith you will carry forward when the story does not end the way you expected. Most people believe faith guarantees protection from disappointment. It does not. Faith guarantees meaning, not immunity. Some chapters end without closure, some prayers end without explanation. Some seasons end without restoration in the way you imagined. That does not make your faith weak. It makes it real. A shallow faith only survives good outcomes. A mature faith survives unanswered questions. The myth that must die here. Here is the myth that quietly damages many people after loss. If God allowed it, then it must have been good in the moment. That is not true. Some things hurt because they are genuinely painful. Some losses are tragic, not symbolic. Some endings are unfair. God does not rewrite pain into poetry to justify Himself. He does something far more honest. He walks with you through it without pretending it didn't matter. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to feel disappointment. You are allowed to admit that you expected more. What you must not do is surrender your future to your past. Loss is a chapter, it is not a verdict. The danger is not what you lost. The danger is letting loss define your expectations going forward. The subtle shift God is waiting for. God is not waiting for you to get over it. He is waiting for you to stop negotiating with the past. Some people live emotionally in a place God already moved them out of. They keep praying backward prayers, asking God to restore something He intentionally closed. Not because He is cruel, but because your life cannot move forward while your heart lives behind. When faith stops being emotional and becomes decisional. Early faith is emotional. Mature faith is decisive. It is choosing to trust without constant reassurance. Choosing to continue without applause. Choosing obedience without emotional reward. This is where many people quietly fall away, not loudly, not rebelliously, but slowly, through emotional exhaustion. Not because God failed them, but because faith stopped feeling good. The question that replaces why, eventually, why did this happen, loses its usefulness. The question that replaces it is far more powerful. What kind of person do I become now? Loss narrows some people, it hardens them. It makes them suspicious, guarded, closed. Others allow loss to clarify them, strip them, strengthen them. The same pain produces different outcomes, not because of God, but because of the response. God does not rebuild you the way you were. Here is a quiet truth. God does not restore you to who you were before the loss. He rebuilds you into someone who can carry what comes next. If He restored everything immediately, you would still be the same person, with the same vulnerabilities, the same blind spots, the same dependencies. So He delays replacement until transformation is complete. Why the next season feels slow. Many people mistake slowness for absence, but slowness is often precision. God moves carefully after loss because careless restoration causes repeat pain. He rebuilds foundations before adding weight, character before opportunity, clarity before expansion. What feels like delay may be preparation happening quietly beneath the surface. When you stop needing, you are ready. There is a moment, subtle but real, when you stop needing what you lost to feel whole. That is not indifference, that is healing. When you reach that place, you are no longer vulnerable to repeating the same cycle. And that is usually when life begins opening again. Restoration is not always symmetrical. One final truth must be said clearly. Restoration does not mean you get the same thing back. Sometimes you get something better. Sometimes you get something different. Sometimes you get wisdom instead of replacement. And sometimes the greatest restoration is not external at all, it is peace. Peace that does not depend on outcomes. Peace that does not negotiate with fear. Peace that stays even when circumstances fluctuate. What this entire season was really about. This season was never about the thing you lost. It was about learning discernment, releasing emotional dependency, developing endurance, maturing your faith, strengthening your inner life. Loss was the doorway. Transformation was the assignment. You are not behind. If you feel like life slowed down after what you lost, you are not behind. You are in a recalibration phase. Some people rush into replacements to avoid discomfort. Others allow God to rebuild them properly. The second group may move slower at first, but they go farther. Final consolidation. You did not imagine the pain. You did not overreact. You did not fail God. You encountered a moment where faith matured beyond feelings. And that kind of faith lasts. If this message met you in a real place, not hype, not fantasy, but reality, stay connected. Daily Prayer Bomb exists for people navigating real faith, real loss, and real rebuilding. Subscribe to Daily Prayer Bomb and allow daily prayer to anchor you while life settles into its next season. You didn't lose what mattered most. You gained clarity, you gained strength, and your story is still unfolding.